Hello, thank you for joining us today and welcome to the Genesis R&D Supplements version 1.6 feature review. My name is Ben. I'm joined by Peter, who is our supplements expert, and we're going to go through the update today. A little background before we get into the topic. ESHA research was established in 1981 as one of the very first nutrition software solutions. Today, we have a large suite of nutrition software products, services, and databases, including the Genesis R&D Food Program, Genesis R&D Supplements, which is what we're going to look at today, the food processor, consulting services, and database licensing. As I mentioned, we're looking at the Genesis Supplements application. Genesis Supplements was released in 2016 and designed to help users manage processes, industry challenges, and meet federal requirements for the supplement industry. Upcoming webinars, we don't have any on the schedule quite yet. We have had a meeting pretty recently to discuss what we're going to go through. Our next one probably is going to be in January, skipping the holiday season. So keep an eye on our website, keep an eye on those announcements. We'll definitely have some coming up, just not on the schedule right now. Please note, as always, this webinar is being recorded. All of our webinars are available on our website. And as I mentioned, you can sign up for future ones once we get those on the schedule as well on the website. And if you have any questions, submit those questions in that GoToWebinar control panel. As soon as you come up with those questions, we have people standing by to answer them. So don't wait to the very end when we probably get a pretty good flood of questions coming in. Ask them right away and we can answer them. And if we think it's an important topic or we think it's something that might make sense for everyone to hear, we might ask that one out loud as well. So at the very least, we'll get back to you individually. What we're going to look at today, the ESHA Ingredient Database review, document attachments, label claim overage calculation, unit weight, formula columns, and then some Q&A, but all the things that are in the update or that we're going to go through. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Peter, transfer control to him, and he's going to go through the topic.
Great, thank you, Ben, for that introduction, and welcome everyone to today's webinar demo on the updates for version 1.6. So there are 4 key updates that I want to go through today with you. There are 2 that are quite significant, and again, if you have any questions, please ask. If we can't get to everyone's questions, we'll answer them individually if you have a question. So the first feature update is a database, and this is an ingredient database that includes the nutritional information for each ingredient per 100 grams of that material. The listing or the list of ingredients is 1,359 ingredients, so it's a significant database. The source of the information is really threefold. The first, it's governmental bodies like the USDA, trade organizations like the American Herbal Products Association, and specific ingredient suppliers like BASF. And if you can see on my screen here, I have my software set to where you can actually see the sources. So you can see USDA here, AIDP, et cetera, okay? So those are the three sources. The database right now is in an Excel spreadsheet format, and I'm gonna show you this real quick. This is all of the 1,359 ingredients, and it's all alphabetical, and there's a ton of information in this database, okay? Not only does the database have the nutritional information on each of the ingredients, but it has 2 other really good data points, and I'll show that to you in Genesis Supplements. So let me expand this. So if you look over here into all, this is kind of my open screen. You see my list of ingredients. And what I did is I imported that spreadsheet. okay? And how you do that, it's very easy to do. You just hit database, and then you hit import data, and obviously you have Excel here. And you can import all of those ingredients into your Genesis Supplements application. All users of Genesis Supplements with current licenses have access to the database, okay? So if you want the database, you can request it via technical support at support@esha.com. You can always let me know at peter@esha.com, and I can provide a link to then get you that database, okay? So if you look here on the right, you see various groups here. And this is really the big group. This is 107 ingredients that I've imported from that 1,359. And obviously I don't need all 1,359. And what I would recommend to people that are importing this ingredient database is to really go through it and delete those rows, delete those ingredients that you don't need. And so what I went through it myself, and I found roughly 100 that were very applicable to what I do on a day-to-day basis in giving webinar demos of Genesis Supplements. And here you can see kind of the other groups here. I've got 43 items in the herbs and spices group, 6 in the minerals group, et cetera, et cetera. All of the ingredients in the database are going to be ESHA ingredients, okay? And they're also going to have a code. I'll show you that in just a second. And that's great to have that ESHA code because it will provide you with a reference. If you do have a question about it, you can always contact technical support, et cetera, et cetera. Now there's 3 global search options that you can do in the, to set up your database. You just hit options here on the left, and then you hit search options, okay? And you have 3 options. If these are clicked, checked, then they'll show up in your database. And as we saw earlier, we saw the supplier there on the right, okay? And then obviously we're seeing the ESHA ingredients. This is really nice because if you don't want to see it, say you have a larger database of 5, 6, 10,000 ingredients and you don't want to see it, you can just unclick it, okay? I typically have these on all the time. So let's go into a real simple example, but I wanted to show you these 2 other factors that are also really nice to know when you're screening, when you're reviewing, when you're comparing ingredients, in addition to the nutritional information. So if we go to whey protein here, what you'll see is obviously everything is in yellow, and what that means is that it's in my database. Yellow means it's there, okay? Here, you can look at some of these similar ingredients, these whey proteins. You can see that you've got whey protein concentrate, isolate, and hydrolysate. So this is really, really nice if you are looking at different formulations and you need to pick or choose the right form. Okay, so that's the first, is the form of the ingredient. The second is the level of processing. Okay, and here we're looking at 2 ingredients, basically both from Davisco Foods, exact same product, but one is agglomerated or instatized and the other is not. So this is really, really nice as well. So you have the different forms as well as the levels of processing. So let's go a little bit further. Let's put whey protein concentrate. And let's just pick any one of these here. And this is what you're going to see in the supplements application, okay? So it's pretty thorough. You're gonna have a lot of dietary nutrient components, and the software provides up to 29 dietary nutrient components. Not all will have 29, some may have 7, some may have 15, but up to 29. In addition, you're going to have your ESHA code. So if you have a question about that, you just refer to that number. If this was a botanical ingredient, the scientific name, Latin name, et cetera, will be here. So that's very, very nice to have. So this database, a lot of people were asking for it to be added or to have the option. And again, all existing customers or new customers of Genesis Supplements have access to this. Okay, so that's the first feature update of the software, of this version of the software. Okay, so let's go now to the documents. And the second feature update is the ability to add a document to an ingredient. Okay, and that's really, really nice to be able to do that. So what we can do is let's just type in an ingredient. Well, let's go to ingredients and let's put in green tea. I think I have green tea in here. Okay, let's just go to calcium. Well, let's just put something in here, calcium ascorbate, an ingredient in the database. If you want to add an attachment, there's a bunch of different ways you can do that, okay? So here you'll see a little icon, it'll be a little paper clip, and you just down click here, and here are your options to add an attachment to that particular ingredient. Most people will browse for that particular document. So if I just hit browse, and I go to my desktop, there's my nutritional data sheet, and there it is. And I can open it up. This is just a dummy nutritional data sheet just to show you that it's there, okay? So that's one way, all right? The other way is to copy and paste something from another area. So if I went back to my desktop here, and I hit this, and I copy it, hit paste, then I can attach it as well, okay? One thing about the paste function, it does not work in the cloud, okay? So it's a current limitation of the remote desktop. So if you have a cloud account, or if you're planning to purchase a cloud account, you're gonna have to browse and use that browse option, okay? The other thing that you can do is you can export all of your files here as a zip drive. So I could click on this and I could hit export, and I could just send it to my desktop, and you could just send it in there. It's at the desktop, okay? And then lastly is the delete. You can just delete things. So you just highlight it and then hit delete, okay? There you go. So those are really the 3-4 ways that you can work with documents. I think one of the biggest things, in addition to just having this information, because there's so many different documents, you've got, you know, nutritional data sheets, you've got product spec sheets, MSDSs, COAs, allergens. I mean, it can run up to 8 or 10 ingredients, as I'm sure many people know on the call. You can attach it here, but what's nice about this, if I use this ingredient in other formulas or in formulas, these documents will then flow to those formulas. So you're not having to do double work and attach the raw material documents to your formulas. They're already there. So I think the key thing, the one thing that I really like about this feature is it does flow to the formulation phase of what you're doing, okay? So that is the second feature of Genesis version 1.6. I'm not going to save this. Then what I'd like to do is I'd like to go to the third feature. And the third feature is another way to calculate overage, okay? And this has really been very good to do that. Let me hit the ESHA ingredients here. Okay. Let's just create it real quick. And this will be good because you can see how you actually create the ingredient. So if we wanted to create an ingredient, okay? So we hit new, and then we go to ingredient, okay? And let's just call it test ingredient, okay? And hit enter, and this will be our ingredient, okay? Just an ingredient here. We're gonna save it. Then we go to new, and we go to formula. And let's create a formula here. Test, let's call it test overage formula. Okay, and now let's add our ingredient that we just created. Okay, and there it is right there. Okay, let's hit it. Let's enter 100 milligrams just for ease of purposes to show how the overage is calculated. And then this, again, if people don't know, or if this is new, this is a really nice pull down where it allows the user in the future the choice to either put it in the supplement facts panel or down below in the other ingredient statement. So we'll just say it's active, okay? Now, here's our formula. We've got a formula, we've got one ingredient in it, okay? Label claim is 100 milligrams, all right? Now, if we want to add overage to it, say we don't want to change the label claim, but we want to change the actual overage. Say it was a green tea product or some type of ingredient with polyphenols, and we wanted to increase the shelf life to 24 months. And we did our testing at 18 months and it just didn't pan out. So we need to add some more. Let's just say this was green tea or matcha or something. And we want to add overage. We just right click here and we put in 10. Let's just say 10%, okay? Now what happens here is you'll see the amount per serving will be 110 milligrams, okay? And so what this overage is, the overage is calculated based on the label claim. So this overage is 10% of the 100. So you've got 100 milligrams times 0.1, which is 10 milligrams. Add it to 100, add that 10 to 100, and you get 110 milligrams. Okay, this way of overage calculation was requested by a lot of folks to add, and we definitely listened to you all and then added that. We know that there's really two ways that are utilized in the dietary supplement industry significantly. The two ways are the amount per serving as well as the label claim. So now we have this label claim way of calculating overage. A couple things about the utilization of it. Users will need to choose between this method of overage calculation and this method of overage calculation. So you can't go back and forth. If you do want to convert to this label claim method, all you need to do is contact tech support. It's support@esha.com, and they can assist with that conversion. In addition, if you have existing formulas that you want to convert over, they have a script that you can basically convert all of your existing formulas from this guy to the label claim, okay? So let me just do a little refresher on the existing method of overage calculation. The existing method is based on the amount per serving, okay? So if we, and again, I've got my software set to this method, so I can't go back and forth, but if I'm gonna take you kind of through it verbally, if you can visualize the calculation here. If we added 10% here, this number will be 111.11, okay? And it's bigger because it's based on the amount per serving, okay? So there's a couple ways that you can look at it. You could say that the software divides the label claim by 0.9, Or you could say that this amount, the 100 milligrams is 90% of the amount per serving. So that's kind of how I understand it better, that secondary way, that this is 90% of this number, okay? One of the key benefits of this new method, and again, there's no right or wrong, however, however your company wants to calculate overage, but one of the key benefits is when you scale up. So as you scale up with this method of overage calculation, 110 is less than 111.11. It seems very small in this example, but when you're running hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds of product, or millions of stick packs that you have to fill, or thousands of HDPE jugs of a different, of a supplement product, it will show benefit, cost savings benefit. So I kind of like this method, but again, no method is right or wrong. It's just another option of that overage calculation. Okay, let's go to the fourth update. I'm not going to save this. And the fourth update is a very nice one. It shows up in the formulation screen. Let's just find a product here, or a formula. Let's just put this one here, Calcium Plus. And what we've done now is we've added a unit weight column on the formulation screen. So this is the formulation screen for the software. And just for a refresher, or for people that have not used the software yet, here you have the formula, this is where you do all the formulation. You can break out the formula really nicely. I remember doing lots of formulas with lots of spreadsheets and tying this cell to that cell. You don't need to do that with Genesis Supplements. You have the title of the formulation. You have the ingredients in the formula. And then you also have the dietary nutrient components broken down. So it's really nice. You can see this all very, visually, very in one screen, okay? And then you have inactive here, a filler or a flow agent of some type. Now, on this ribbon right here, you have all of the significant factors that one would need to scale up. And again, Genesis Supplements is not limited to benchtop formulation. And that's why it's pretty ubiquitous in the industry up and down the value chain. So we have people that are consultants, individual contractors that are working for companies. We have lots of contract manufacturing companies, contract research organizations, CPG companies, as well as even retailers that use the software. So that's the really nice factor. This is not limited to the bench. I have some people that use this that are out in the plant commercializing products all day long, and they're able to see that. So I wanted to kind of do a little bit of a review on this. And if this is new for people, then this is, I think, a good summary. You have your overage here, which we talked about, your moisture loss, your percent formula. This is your amount per serving, which is the physical product. So in this case, it's 2 tablets, okay? You have your ingredient cost, your formula cost, your batch weight, your batch cost, and a code. And these codes are for the individual ingredients here. This calcium citrate, I didn't enter a particular code. But what's nice about this new unit weight column, all you have to do is you just right click on this ribbon here. So I just right click on it and I hit more down here. And what's nice about this is you have a little pull down here, and these are the items that you can have as column headers if you'd like. Okay, so there could be a lot of things that you could be looking at, comparing, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, even vitamins and minerals. This is the screen that the software, when you purchase the software, this is what is the pre-existing, on the screen. So what you do is you can go to unit weight down here, click on the box, hit OK, and then unit weight will show up. Okay, and what I can do here is I can take this and I can move these over here. This is really nice. A lot of people, how they use this screen is they use it or they set the format up like they did with Excel. So a lot of people have this column, the percent formula column over here, then they may have the label claim over here, et cetera, et cetera. It just depends on how how you want to do that. But what's nice about this is then you can compare the unit weight to the amount per serving. So the amount per serving for this particular product is 2 tablets. And if you go down here, it's 4.73 grams. And now the unit weight column will really break it down per unit, right? So this is 1 pill and you've got 2.37 grams, okay? So this is a really nice feature. I think it's great to compare. One thing to note is that for this column to show up, right, to be an option, the amounts per serving will need to be greater than 1, okay? Because if this was 1, then obviously that would also be your unit weight, okay? So this needs to be greater than 1, and then this option, this unit weight option, will be available. I want to see if there's anything else here. Just as a refresher here, once you go from this is your formulation tab, you then go into a statements tab, and this statements tab will allow you to place your allergen as well as your other ingredient, to kind of customize these statements, your allergen statement as well as your other ingredient statement. Okay, and then the flow is you just continue this way, then you go to your label. Okay, and this label tab is really where you can customize a particular label, and it's actually really great because it prevents revision confusion, right? So this is the area, or this is the screen or tab where you can actually go in. So what you do is you actually go into the label and you click on it, on whatever you'd like, and a pop-up box, I call it kind of a CFR pop-up box, pops up, and then it basically tells you what you can do to a particular item. So for instance, a good example, and I see here that what it did is for all government regulated dietary nutrient components, it will always put it up at the very top, okay? If I had added, say, calcium carbonate to a formula, right? You would see calcium carbonate down here, and then you'd see calcium up here. You could uncheck calcium carbonate. You could go up to this calcium, and it's like we did here as calcium citrate, calcium malate. So this is really the customization portion of the label. Okay, and then all of these labels can be here. You have a report as well as a label that you can send to colleagues or customers. So close that. All right. I think that is the 4. I'm thinking if I have gotten everything here on the key points. So really the key features here are the database, the ability to add attachments, There's a new way to add overage, which is it's based on the label claim. So again, if you were to have 100 milligrams and you wanted to add 10% overage, the software will divide that 100 by 0.9, and that you'd get 111.1, and that's the pre-existing method. That's the amount per serving, right? If the new method, which is based on the label claim, it would take 10% of 100, so 100 times 1.1, and then you get 110. Okay. If anyone has any further questions too that they want to kind of dive into, you can always contact me and we can talk about how that overage is calculated in greater depth. So I think I've got that, Ben. And I think that's kind of the summary of the different feature updates for this version 1.6.
Perfect, Peter. Thank you so much for that overview. I'm going to go ahead and take control back now here. Let me show my screen again. If anyone else is like me and feels like they might need a little bit of additional assistance after hearing all of that, we do have a training coming up for the Genesis Supplements program. It's going to be March 4th and 5th, and it's in our Oak Brook, Illinois training facility, and it's going to cover fundamentals of the Genesis Supplements program, you know, creating recipes, building formulas within active and inactive ingredients, ingredient statements, labels, all that sort of stuff, and best practices as well. You can see our full training schedule on our website. If you're one of the people that has both the food and supplements program, we do have new dates for the food program as well for next year. So we just added those, I believe, last week. So again, if you have both applications, you can take a look at those training options for both programs. I think we only just had one question. It was a fairly quiet group today that everybody was here for. Before we get into that one question, if you want to follow up in greater detail, kind of like what Peter said, you know, follow up with us, give us a call, shoot us an email, reach out to our sales team if you have any questions about your account, support. If you want training or would like some help with our consulting team, you can reach out to our consulting services team as well. And then we have a lot of helpful resources on our website, whether it's our LinkedIn page, our blog, our newsletter, e-learning center. All of those places are great resources to learn the application and to get your questions answered. And then Peter, that one question that we had is, how do I utilize water as a formulation ingredient inside of Genesis Supplements? And I'll go ahead and pass the control back to your computer because I think you wanted to show that one off on the program, correct?
You know, I can talk through. That's a great question. It's involved, but what I'm going to do is I'll kind of walk through that. And again, if people have further questions, if they want to dive into that, because I know there are a lot of people that want to use water as an ingredient. So let me take a step back and just kind of explain how the software treats water right now, okay? So the software treats water as a dietary nutrient component. Okay, so if you're looking at a nutritional data sheet on an ingredient, you'll see, you know, percent water, et cetera, and you enter that information as you're, you know, filling out the kind of the nutritional profile of that ingredient. Okay, so the software treats water like a dietary nutrient component. The other thing the software does is it pulls out all moisture from a final formulation that was contributed by that dietary nutrient component. So that's really, really great if you're doing something that has incredibly low moisture or water, okay? There are some people that want to use water and they don't want it pulled back out of the formula because there will be some residual water post-processing, okay? So there's a couple different steps, okay? So the first thing that you want to do is you want to create a new ingredient and you want to call it water, okay? Just call it water. And then you create a new dietary nutrient component called moisture. So in the system right now, there is a dietary nutrient component, and you'll see it in that list right here. And you'll see it as water, okay? Now, this is just an aside, if you import that spreadsheet that we talked about, the database spreadsheet of the ingredients, you will also see a moisture dietary nutrient component, okay? Let's say you didn't import the database. You'd have to create this. You'd have to create this, and it's really, really simple to do, okay? So the first thing you do is you create a new ingredient called water. Then you create the new dietary nutrient component and just name it, moisture. Then add that moisture dietary nutrient component to the water and just hit 100. Okay, so think about it if you were doing like green tea, treat it like a dietary nutrient component. So green tea, and you're looking at a nutritional data sheet and it says 98% polyphenols. Treat that moisture dietary nutrient just like the polyphenols, but it would be 100. Okay, 100%. Then what you can do here, this is the really neat part now that you can do, is you can choose if you want that moisture dietary nutrient component to be active or inactive. Okay, down the road, do you want it active, meaning do you want to see it in the supplement facts panel, or do you want to see it as inactive in the other ingredient statement? So you actually have a choice now, which is great. Okay, and then you take that ingredient, that water ingredient, and you add it to the formula, to a formula that you're working on, and then you just add back the amount of water, the quantity of water that one would know post-processing. And if you're working on processing and commercialization and scale up and pilot plant, and you'll know what your water level is. So you just add that back into the final formula. Okay, so the amount of water you add back. So there is a way. All you have to do is just create that dietary nutrient component moisture. That's it. That's really the key initial step that you do, and then from there you can use water in the software very, very easily. Okay, but the key takeaway I think is important to know when you do these 3 or 4 steps, is that the software will not identify the new moisture dietary nutrient component as water, okay, as it does right now with the water dietary nutrient component. So it's not going to pull it back out. So the water will be retained in your formula, or the title, and then you just add back the quantity. So there is a way to work with water as a formulation ingredient in Genesis supplements. But a very good question.
Awesome, Peter. And I'm gonna take this next question. We have one last question, and I think you kind of went through it as you went through each individual topic. But I wanted to kind of call it out. The question was, what comes with the update and what has to be requested separately? So it's basically 2 and 2. There's 4 total items. 2 are going to be available right now when the software is updated. So the document attachments and the unit weight formula column are in the program. You've got them available. The ingredient database and then the label claim overage calculation are the 2 that you're going to have to request. It's technically the label claim overage calculation is in the software, but it has to be a switch that's flipped by our support team. So if you request the label claim overage calculation, the change in that, we can change that for you. And then the ingredient database is available upon request as well. So that's going to be the answer for that question there, is just document attachments and unit weight formula column there, claim overage and ingredient database by request. So let us know if there are any other questions, and I'll let you all go. Have a great day.